Hello, my friends. Welcome again to the Gospel Rescue Mission weekly teaching. You'll notice Teddy Roosevelt behind me. He's one of my heroes. There's a lot of great things in his life. This week we're going to talk about grace in our weekly teaching. And you can get more of all this at grmuskogee.org. I always want to throw that in. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. But I want to get right into the weekly teaching. I know some of you don't want to hear all that introduction. So here we are. We're talking about grace this week. Well, what happens when you go into church? You go into church and you say, hey, how you doing? And most people say, fine, and you just keep on going. Well, in most churches, we have this attitude of conformity. Well, we have to conform. If I tell people that I'm hurting, they're going to want to take care of me. They're going to think less of me. We like the pat on the back. You know, our behavior in the environment of conformity is very much that we want to be admired, respected. We want to look good on the outside. We want to look like holy people everywhere we go. My brothers and sisters, I want to challenge us to get past all that. Go back and watch last week's teaching that talks about the keys to getting past that, getting in connection with our own brokenness, forgiveness and relationships as more important than rules. But conformity has some payoffs that we have to be aware of. It's going to take time. Conformity doesn't take any time at all. It's pretty easy. Fine. How are you doing today? Fine. Boy, that's a pretty quick answer. But instead, like what happened to me a couple weeks ago at church, it's the greeting time, and usually those have to be pretty quick. You can't really get into depth conversations most of the time. But I got led to just walk across the church. I mean, there's a brother in the church that was way on the other side. And for whatever reason that week, God said, just go shake hands with him. That's all I was thinking I was going to do. The Spirit of God has His own plans, though. He's got an idea. I went over and said, hey, how you doing? Shook his hand, thinking it was just going to be a normal, hey, fine. He said, I looked in his eyes and I knew he wasn't just fine. He was hurting. So we established a relationship right there. See, conformity doesn't allow that to happen. Conformity says he's going to say fine, I'll say fine, and we'll go on about our business. It took more time to hear his story and to find out more about him. It didn't take anything out of me. So conformity costs us less. It doesn't take much effort. Conformity doesn't take any kind of emotional investment. I don't have to care. I mean, fine is nothing. I don't have to have a heartache over that. Don't have to feel anything. There's less spiritual investment. I don't have to look up scriptures. I went and looked up some scriptures I could share with this brother. I actually printed off a copy of my addiction book, just a copy of the draft that I'm working on, and I gave it to him. Said, hey, this might be able to help you out. As a loved one who's struggling in addiction. I said, this is written for someone just like you. Well, what are the odds that I run into that? So God said, I want you to share this with him. So I shared that with him, and it feels safer for us. This conformity is pretty safe. Fine. Right? It doesn't cost me anything. It's pretty easy. But in this, there's a shame that builds up, an embarrassment. I have a dear brother in Christ who's dying of cancer, but he was too ashamed to share with anybody because he's kind of coming out of a word of faith sort of teaching where if he speaks the fact that he has cancer, that he's just giving power to the enemy. He needs to speak healing into his life. Well, there's some truth in that. We got to speak healing, but he never shared with anybody. So nobody was really praying for his cancer until now. He never even shared with his wife his illness. My brothers and sisters, that's a shame. We need to share our hurts and our wounds with each other. Share our diseases. Now, I don't mean like coughing on people and sharing disease like that. I mean, just share the fact you have them and ask people to pray for you, to minister to you, to give you that blessing and of being able to care for you. Instead, I want to invite you to create in your church, in your home, in your workplace, wherever you're at, to create an environment of transformation. In the environment of transformation, you're permitted to fail and make mistakes. We're going to address those issues. You make a mistake, we're not going to ignore it. That's something that's leniency. That's not even grace. That's something crazy. You make a mistake, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to help you learn how to not do whatever it is or how to do what you're supposed to do. We're going to walk alongside you, not in judgment, but out of love, because I care for your future. I believe in your future. And that is something I want you to hear, that we believe in the men and women who come to the shelter program here, who are part of our meal program, the financial help programs, the teaching we do here. And we want to take out to your church. This grace teaching is really powerful, It could change your life. But we're going to have to permit people to fail so they don't hide it from us. And then when they fail, we say, oh, you know what, you failed. There's a great teaching opportunity. Let's work on this. You know, parenting, this was a tough gig. I had to learn how to do that. Boy, I had to let my kids make some mistakes. So that way I can wrap my arm around them and say, oh, you know what, you just blew it. Oh, man, well, let's learn from it. What did you learn from that? What's the hurt and pain of that? Let me help you look at this another way. You know, it was one of those moments, it was really kind of heartbreaking initially. You know, a loved one was trapped in the addiction of pornography. And I was like, oh, man, I can't believe it. This is really shocking. And I said to this loved one, I said, you know what? What would you feel like if someone was looking at your mother the way you were looking at that photo, or your sister the way you were looking at that photo? Boy, they were heartbroken. I said, well, can we start looking at other people that way, that they are our sisters, our brothers, our loved ones like that? See, I was able to walk alongside them. They didn't make that mistake. They didn't share that hurt with me. I could not help them. I could not be a blessing to them. I also want you to know this culture of transformation is a process. It won't happen overnight. We won't become like Christ overnight. It's going to take some time and some effort. And the people who make the mistakes are probably going to make them multiple times. But if they keep learning and growing and getting better at it, and there's more time in between their mistakes, then you have had an impact on their life. Well, this has been Rich Shouts of the Gospel Rescue Mission. Again, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter @GRM Muskogee. Learn more about us. We will come to your church, your business, your community, and help you develop a grace-based a system in your community to serve those who are hurting and wounded, the people of God. We want them to experience all that God has for them. Join us in this quest.